So very good afternoon, one and all. This is Rekha Chakrabarti, Regional Quality Head of Apollo Hospitals Group, your host for today. Thank you all for joining us on the second day of the pre-conference webinar series through the Zoom link and also through the social media. We are pleased to inform you that we are back again with the 9th International Patient Safety Conference that is happening on the 13th and 14th of this year, 2023 at Hotel Taj Palace in New Delhi. This knowledge sharing webinar series has been organized as a curtain raiser for kickstarting the events for the conference. The webinar series shall be conducted from 1st of February to 10th of February every day between 3 to 4 p.m. And yesterday we had a very interesting session on leadership by Mr. Girdhar Gani and also by Mr. Santosh Marathe. So before we start the session for the day, here are few instructions for all the participants. The participants are requested to keep your mic on mute so that the speakers are at
You're on mute, Rekha.
Rekha, unmute yourself.
Okay. So before we start the session for the day, here are a few instructions for all the participants. All participants are requested to keep your mic. So I don't know, again, it's getting muted. So someone just have a look at it. No, why it's happening. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. So all the participants are requested to keep your mic on mute so that the speakers are able to speak without any hassle during the sessions. Keep your videos on off mode. Please use the chat box only to post relevant points, and all the questions shall be taken at the end of the session. Since this is an informational session, we are not issuing any certificate during this program to the participants. And we also request you all to register separately for the future webinars on the same link. The webinar series is also being streamlined through YouTube as well. So to start the session right now, we are here with a very interesting topic today, that is essentials of fire safety principles. Fire safety is a set of practice intended to reduce the destruction caused by fire. As we all know, that in a hospital setting, fire safety is very crucial, unlike in other buildings, because in case of fire, many patients are unable to evacuate themselves as their mobility is impaired either by illness, disability, or through their treatment. Therefore, it is important in this setting more than ever that fire safety tips are put into motion. To further deep dive into this crucial topic, we are very excited to have two of our very eminent speakers from Narayana Health today, and I sincerely thank Mr. Sunil Kumar CN and Mr. Anthony Vijayaraj for accepting our invitations for speaking for this session and being with us today. In today's session, they are going to speak on the following topics. The first one is essential of fire safety in healthcare organization and fire prevention and safety practices in the healthcare organization. So before we begin with the session on the essentials of fire safety in healthcare organization, let me introduce you to our first speaker, Mr. Sunil Kumar CN. Mr. Sunil Kumar CN is the Senior Vice President and Head, Business Transformation and ESG, Lead Key Initiatives and Service Excellence. He has joined Narayana Health on April 25, 2001 as a consultant in the Clinical Perfusion Department. He holds master's degree in hospital management and MPhil in the hospital and healthcare systems management from Birla Institute of Technology and Science. He is a certified NABH assessor and possesses a certificate in Lean Six Sigma belt from Benchmark Six Sigma and LCS1C bronze in Lean Management from Simpler. Mr. Sunil has around 33 years of experience. So in the past, he has also worked with Manipal Heart Foundation, Trichur Heart Hospital Limited, BM Birla Heart Research Center, amongst others. Mr. Sunil is also a part of the core team during driving critical change management projects in the organization. Over to you, Mr. Sunil.
Thank you very much, Rekha. It is a long introduction. I will start sharing my screen. Just a moment, I need to select it. Technical difficulties, one moment.
Suma, you want to stop sharing so that you can share probably?
Yeah, one moment, yeah.
Shall I share your PPT, sir?
Yeah, one moment. Look like, yeah, it has come. Yeah, it is not able to search it. Okay. You're getting it now?
Yes, sir. So you can do the
Slideshow. Yeah.
slideshow. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's fine, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that long introduction. And first, I would like to thank you, the organizers, for such a wonderful event, which will give us the platform to share and learn. I'm sure that Apollo has got a lot of systems in place. We don't need to do anything new to share too much, but we wanted to express some of our experiences in the way or along the way of creating this safety culture in the organization. So we will try to learn more from you by participating in these kind of events. What was the most important thing for us in the when we are trying to get this quality journey and fire and safety in the organization was to create a culture of safety. One of the most important thing is to have that culture. So why that culture of safety is important is that when the mindset is the most important thing. If the mindset is right, then everything else falls in line. This was a report coming from an article. It is from the Business Standards in Delhi, which is published in 2022, which says that there was around 10,000 fire incidents happened in the year, in 6 months of time. And it is quite important to remember that these kind of incidents happens everywhere, not in the hospital, but every other building. Many of it, we come to see that there are a lot of untowards loss of the property and people, and many of getting injured, and a lot of this kind of issues happen, and it is a real nightmare. So what is that in the hospital most important for a fire and safety implementation? The most important thing is to prevent. What is that which is when we think about fire and safety is there a hand raising is something to tell, or Anmol, or I can continue? So it is all about preventing any of the incidents which can lead to fire and safety issues. Detection, suppression, and evacuation always comes after that. We wanted to see that there was no need to anytime detect, suppress, and evacuate in the hospital. And you all know, evacuating patient in the hospital is a kind of an exercise which no one wants to do, especially when the hospital is full. And if you want to do a vertical evacuation, it's a very difficult situation in the hospital. Traditionally, we have to say that Indians generally take a lot of risk. You can see when you drive a car, when you can see that a lot of bikers negotiating so much in front of you on a left-sided vehicle. You can see somebody coming, crossing in front of you. There is another situation which I see when I drive is people, we can see that they're crossing a 6-lane road with 2 children on their hand, and then trying to squeeze the median, which is very well protected so that people don't cross, and then squeeze in between. to avoid crossing over the foot over bridge. People are extremely capable to do things beyond the logic what we can think of. So we have to work with those kind of a population around in the organization to see that these things are to be implemented in a timely manner. So what are the most important essential requirements? So there are three separate topics we always talk about. The most important, most significant thing which I would like to talk about the prevention aspect of it. How do we prevent it? The regulations in India, the state and the central board, which clearly tell that there are some guidelines which you have to maintain for the safety in every building. So this building code is first guideline for every organization to stick upon. Next very important thing is the accreditation requirement. Very well written down standards and elements are there. NABH, JCI, any accreditation agency give a lot of hand-holding and guidance for this purpose. Organization will come out with a lot of new thought process, what is important, what is not important. Yes, we need to make sure that these things are to be mandatory, to be desirable. Next point is to create that awareness of the safety. So two things which we will focus on here is one is the HIRA. How do you identify the risk in the hospital, in the departments, which are the most riskiest area? Then how do we create that kind of a work permit system to see that these things are prevented? To see that all these things are put in place, we need to have the facility round by the senior administration. It's all about how much senior administration want these things to be done. Leadership should understand that these are very, very critical for an organization. Leadership too should guide the people to take the sufficient requirement of budgeting for it. Make sure that these are looked upon to see that implementation is done properly. So the rounds and audit is an important part of the fire prevention. Safety aspects, yes, we need those kind of things in place. The signages, exit plan is everywhere in all the hospitals already been there. Emergency exit requirement as per the norms. Training and mock drills. This is one other area which needed to be most critical in any organization. How do we ensure that all our employees are trained? Is there a way which we can see that everyone has got the culture of safety? Yes, it is definitely challenging, but this has to continue. There is no end for it. It's like a quality. It's always a journey. These kind of events, these kind of workshops continue to impart that kind of a seriousness among people to ensure that they know what they are supposed to do. Drills, yes, you need to be trained to respond for a adversity. Without having proper drills at ground, no one will be able to react. So training and drills are the important part of fire and safety. Evacuation, yes, again, needed to be properly done. We have created something called a fire strategic committee to ensure that there is a written down protocol for different areas for evacuation, who will command the evacuation, what are the important things required for evacuation, where you will evacuate horizontally, vertically, who will lead it. When you do that evacuation, what other things you should be careful. These are written down procedures which need to be looked at to see that these are all trained to the response team. PPE is very, very important. We had an incident once. We had a reasonably a big fire in one of our unit. When we wanted to enter into that one to see where is a fire, no one could enter into that place because the smoke was so thick and so toxic that no one could enter that place. The PPE is the only thing which allowed us to go inside and arrest that fire. So PPE is a very, very important equipment in every hospital. Fire protection system, today, these are all very, very reliable. In the fire detection system, one thing which always been a grace for every time whenever there was an incident, it picked up and alarmed, warned, and then allowed people to respond is the smoke detector. A smoke detector and a response system, an alarm system, a public alarm system, so that it triggered the people whether day or night, or whether people are there or people are not there. One of the most important fire detection system. All other things comes secondary. There are the flame detectors are coming now. Thermal systems are coming, which will allow people to detect it much easier. Because many times the hospitals, part of the hospital will be empty in the night. There should be something to monitor your facility. Very, very important thing in the detection system. Fire pump, hydrant system, smoke extraction system, all those things are part of the gadgets, which depending upon the guidelines and the requirement, every hospital will be going for it. Now, what is at stake? When there is a fire, we all know that there is always possibility of life loss, property loss. Then business continuity is a major problem. How do you continue your business? Reputation, very, very important thing nowadays. Any fire incident, legal authorities will be waiting for a chance. The regulatory fine and penalty is very, very high. The business enter into a risky situation whenever there is a fire issue happens in the hospital. So there are a lot at stake. So that prevention is the most important thing in the fire safety. So let us look at what are the most common problems which we see regularly in the hospital fire incidents. Two things we will emphasize here. One is that the outsourced staff or vendors who come to the hospital to work. Sometimes your small canteen might have outsourced. There will be a people who are in that place. There will be some vendors will be coming to some drilling or welding, those kind of work. What is the standardization we have brought into the system? Are we putting these people into training? Are we telling them what is the 2-3 steps you should do if you see a fire? What are the most critical things he should know when he work in the hospital? These are very, very important in fire and safety prevention. So every vendor, every outsourced agency person should mandatorily undergo for the training. He should know that whom to contact. He should know that one fire extinguisher is next to him, and he should be taught to use it also in case of requirement. We had a situation that where we had a small cafeteria in one of our units. In the early morning, there was a smoke coming out from nowhere. It took almost 15-20 minutes for us to identify the smoke from where it was coming. It was a fire incident happened in that place because it was a new person, which we also missed to look at it. So this can be extremely dangerous. So we need to take care of that. Electrical equipment, one of the other villain in all the fire incidents. The sparks, the materials what we used for the electrical equipment, very important to be careful on these things. Whenever the load is given properly, the load is balanced, the load is checked, whether overheating is happening. These thermography audits need to be looked at it to ensure that these are properly monitored and controlled. And making sure that the materials are not stored everywhere in the hospital, mishandling of the chemicals and inflammable materials. And of course, yes, all these things need to be put into the minds of the people who are at ground. This is just to show up, everyone know this, the regulatory part of it, how the fire and safety department talked to us about these 3 events, whatever the prevention, safety and protection, what we do. Accreditation requirement, all of us know they have a lot of standards and elements to follow, all of it. Will not stick more into this one. When we talk about the fire prevention, what we did, how did we think that we made a difference for the organization to have some controls among the fire prevention? What we did is that we created a checklist in an electronic form. It is in an audit platform which was shared to every unit. Every unit is supposed to validate it on every day with the proof that they have checked it. Fire equipments are working, the smoke detectors are checked, fire alarm panel is working, and all of it. Fire pump is with pressure inside, checked it, water is there, jockey pump is on. All these things, they should upload it in the audit platform so that the corporate audit team can visibly see that whether this unit, every unit is doing this job. If it is not happening, it will show that this is lacking. Only 80%, 90%, whether it is 100% completed. This is one thing which we brought in a compulsory checkpoint to ensure that this is happening. To ensure that this is happening as per our requirement, we arrange the facility round by the senior team members mandatorily again on the checking platform. The importance of this one in electronic media is that we will get the trend of it. We can look at the last 6-month pattern. We can look at which unit is lacking. All these important things will be available because it's an electronic platform. We created something called a scorecard because we wanted every unit a unique number about a scorecard, how much they are scoring on the fire and safety. So we gave them X number of parameters on which they will be scoring their unit. So we will be able to benchmark all the units, how they are scoring across all the units. This gave them a kind of competition among themselves. We give them award for the best practices. Every year we call them for sharing their good practices. So this gives a lot of thought process for fire and safety. So annual fire safety, electrical safety audit is mandatory to conduct. All the observations will be continued to evaluate on month to see that it is closed. So till the closure, the observation will be again and again taken up. Wherever budget is required, the corporate team will work with the finance department to get the money to get it implemented. HIRA, policies, work permit system, all will be part of the preparations and prevention. Lot of heat sensors are coming nowadays, which will help us to look at that where the heat is coming up. So before the fire happens, we'll be able to track the heating areas, which will help us to prevent it much early. Everybody is encouraged to raise the incidents. Very, very important thing. People should feel free to raise the incidents because it is important to see that what can be the potential problems which is faced in the area. So even an electrical spark, for example, a water gone into the syringe pump and the cord get short, a spark comes, smoke comes, it is just a small incident, but we make sure that they report this incident so that we will be able to track how these things are utilized. So allowing people to come forward and reporting it is one of the critical cultural change which we brought into the system. A lot of emergency response system has been put in place where the nurses, housekeeping, security, technicians all become part of it. So 24/7, there will be a team to look at it. Training and drills, as usual, continue to create that culture of safety. Work permit and fire marshals are two separate systems which helped us a lot to bring in this seriousness and controls over the fire and safety prevention aspects of it. Fire marshals, most of the units will be having it. Nurses handle it in most units. They will be the foot soldiers to handle it.
So sorry to interrupt in middle. We have just 5 minutes more, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right.
So what we wanted the all staffs to know, what is the expectation of the management? Very simply to say that every of the staff in the hospital should be able to identify a situation which is risky and to know that what kind of fire. He should be bold enough, capable enough to raise a code. In case required, a manual call point. If required, he should be free to use the extinguisher and confine that area and evacuate. These are the 4 steps we wanted them to mandatorily to exhibit that they are able to do it. This is one thing which makes the change at ground. Training, yes, it need a continuous training that every person should undergo. Refresher program should go, assessment should happen, drills and tabletop drills should continue, and external agency drills also always important. So life safety, we have briefly mentioned it. All required equipments, signages, equipments, all these things should be there in every hospital as per the requirement. So we divided this system into 2 things. One is active and the other one is passive. The active protection system, again, made into mandatory and desirable. Mandatory will be regulated by the law, regulated by the accreditation agencies, regulated by the unit. So we make sure that these regulated equipments are available in the system mandatorily. Desirable, yes, you can always mix and match depending upon the fund availability in the company. These are some of the incidents as a memory, which every one of us should go through. We all know that one, how many incidents had happened. Every year this keep happening. People have died. We can see the panic when fire happens, people jumping from the 5th floor, 6th floor down to save their life, but ending up dying. It is very, very important to keep learning from these incidences and to ensure that these kind of situations never come to our hospitals. So it's always better to wish for the best, but it is very, very important to prepare and prepare and prepare to prevent and respond right. So thank you very much for the opportunity to express ourselves. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Sunil, sir, for the detailed, insightful takeaways on essential requirement of fire safety in the hospitals, fire safety regulatory requirements, implementation of the fire safety in hospitals, and key points to prevent fire incidents, initial response mechanism during fire emergency situations, and also the active and passive fire protection system requirements, which is a mandatory requirement for all of us at this point of time. Thank you once again. Thank you so much, sir, for your precious time. So we go to the next part of the program. So to start with, basically, we have to look at the principles of the fire safety practice and healthcare facility requirements and measurements to prevent the fire hazards in the hospitals, which may include the availability of the fire doors, the location and the use of fire alarms, location and use of fire extinguishers and other firefighting systems, location of emergency exits, evacuation procedures, staff knowledge on the potential fire hazards in hospitals and prevention, action to be taken in case of fire and smoke in the hospitals, to name a few. To speak on the session on the fire prevention and safety practices in the healthcare organization, let me introduce to you our next speaker, Mr. Anthony Vijayaraj, the Corporate Fire Safety Officer from Narayana Health. Mr. Anthony Vijayaraj is the Fire Safety Officer at Narayana Health Corporate. He has more than 7 years of experience at hospitals and other industries and in areas of fire safety management, training, emergency preparedness, disaster management, safety audits, and accidents and incident management. He holds a fire safety engineering degree from NIFE, master's diploma from offshore, rig and oil and gas safety engineering from Green World Group. Further, he is certified as a lead auditor for ISO 14001:2018, Occupational Health and Safety Management Systems from OHSMS, and also holds International General Certificate on Occupational Health and Safety from NEBOSH. Over to you, Mr. Anthony.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for addressing me, and also thank you so much for giving an opportunity for this webinar, for inviting me to present the webinar topic. So now, before that, let me share my screen. Yes. Now, the topic, what we are focusing on, the fire preventions and safe practices of the healthcare organizations. According to NBCs, the fire safety requirements are divided into three categories, as already Sunil sir explained about this. Initially, the first category is fire preventions, next is life safety, as well as the fire protection systems. In that, in preventions, in preventive measures, what and all we are going to see, especially the factors. So for this, we have to focus initially from the constructions, not only during the constructions, also during renovations, demolitions, as well as the time of any maintenance activities also. Some of the factors that we are considering has to be prevented during structural as well as non-structural safety. Example, the type of materials we are using for the constructions, also type of cables and ducts, which is fire resistance or not. So those things and all we have to consider during the constructions activities. Next, floor area and layout plan, especially the travel distance, the fire exits, number of fire exits should be there between the travel distance. For examples, that minimum travel distance should be 22.5. So those things and all we have to concentrate during the layout plan. Also, the number of compartmentations and fire, the corridor size. So all those things are we have to focus in these aspects in the layout area. Height of the buildings. So all the requirements starts from the height of the building. For example, size of the setbacks, the capacity of the pump, fire protection systems, and whether we need to have a refuge area or not. So all those things start from the height of the building. Next, accessing road to the hospitals or building, the stability of the road. We are seeing only about the inside of our premises of the safety. No, even we have to look into the outside of the premises, like whether the fire engine can able to access the road or not, because it should have a minimum withstand capacity of 45 tons of capacity, and also the main entrance minimum, which should be 4.5 meters, and height clearance minimum 5 meters. Those things also should be taken into consideration. These are some example points. And also, after fulfilling all the requirements to maintain in the smooth flow as well the safe practices, which should have regular inspections, trainings, not only maintenance. So everything has to be focused. Next, life safety as a signages. Yes, of course, at least we should have all the signages should be in the auto glow. And especially the fire exit signage directions, it should be keep on continuations always. It should be continuity till the fire exits, and from the fire exits till safe assembly points. And exit requirements, emergency lighting system, especially like preferably what we can say, we can install the inbuilt battery type kind of like emergency lights in case even the failure of any of the mode of power supply also, which will be working. And also in not only in the fire exits, even in the corridor, even in the staircase as well. Yes, at least we should have one number of fire suit as well as a breathing apparatus to fight any time of scenarios. Patient evacuation equipments. This concept we're going to see in the coming slides detailedly. Yes. Next is about the training. So any changes in the infrastructures or any changes in the firefighting systems, it should be informed to the staff during the timing of whether it is in the inductions or in the time of refresher training. All the infrastructure details also should be mentioned in the trainings, not only the type of fire but the other aspects. Even about the infrastructure changes also should be mentioned during our training. Next, minimum fire protection system which is required in our hospitals. Initially, we can start with the addressable fire detection systems, where we can give the exact address to identify the hazard, like fire. Next, fire extinguishers, fire pumps. Always we have to focus, all the pumps should be in the auto mode. Next, hydrant systems, sprinklers, smoke control system, like smoke extraction system. We should have at least minimum mechanism to extract the smoke from that affected area. Yes, for the announcement purpose, we should have a talkback as well as public addressable system, as well as the sand buckets. Challenges, especially challenges where we are facing, especially during the work activities. These are some photographs of the unsafe practices at the workplace. How we can able to prevent this? This can be prevented only by strict implementations of work permit systems. For this, so let us watch one short video. At least based on this, we will come to know what is very important, as well as where the awareness lacking. Yes. So what are the challenges we faced? So at least in these videos, we'll come to know, so what and all hazards we have to see, even the surrounding area, what and all hazards are present. Along with that, whether we know to know whether we are working with the right training, as well as what type of work we are doing. The next challenges is again the unsafe condition in the workplace. So to prevent this, at least we should have a regular fire safety training, this audits, electrical or safety audits, as well as thermography audit to identify the heating spot in the panels, all those things. So let us watch one awareness video on the same. Next, another big challenge in prevention of fire in the organization is accumulations of materials. So the next video explain us why good housekeeping is required. This is also again one of the biggest. We have this thing is abstracting all the staircase corridors as well as firefighting equipments and all. So these things is happening on regular basis on day-to-day this thing in the organizations. Why? Because everybody thinks the fire safety is the responsibility of the fire safety team as well as the management. But fire safety is responsibility of all the individual employee of the organizations. So for that, at least they have to follow the basic daily routine responsibilities are basic responsibilities. We can see the first responsibility what we see is please don't obstruct any of the corridors or fire exits or any firefighting equipments, which will be really because fire is uncertain. Next, if the room are not in use, please switch off the lights or any equipments, and do not try to overload any electrical boards or sockets, and don't use any damaged equipments. Also try to avoid using of the extension boards, because we are making the system extension boards overheated, which will result in incident. Next, so not to smoke inside the hospital premises. And suppose in your work area, suppose if you find any of the detector got sealed or closed, please try to inform the fire department or the concerned department to remove this, because it does not serve a purpose. And try to not to accumulate any of the materials. Please try to discard like as soon as possible on the daily basis. And again, raising the incident. Suppose if you find any unsafe act or conditions, please try to raise it an incident, so that in this way we can minimize the fire incidents in work area. Evacuations. As we know, evacuations is shifting the patient from place of danger to the face of safe area. Type of evacuations. Yes, we have initially, so we'll be focusing on the horizontal evacuation, shifting the patient from the same floor from one block to the another block. But what are the criteria we have to decide before shifting the patients? The first criteria, whether that area is not affected with the fire, and also the area should be fire resistance minimum for the 2 hours. So, and also the same facility for the to take care of the patient should also be available. In case if it is fails, then the option will be the vertical evacuations when the horizontal evacuations fails. And few equipments, especially to evacuate the patients, we required. For those things are the safe closed stretchers, emergency mattress, emergency stretchers, emergency wheelchairs, like evacuation wheelchairs where we don't have a ramp. So at least we should require some wheelchairs with having a sliding mechanism. And also we can even use our manpower to evacuate the patients. So lifting techniques are, so we'll have a short video. In this we have recorded some evacuation techniques can be used in case of any emergency. especially these ones, when we don't have the entire area is covered with the smoke. In that time, we have to crawl. So if you find any persons, while moving the hands, we have to swing our hands to identify any obstacle is there in the front or not. So, and now let us have a quick activity based. So in this, we are going to identify the hazards, and the participants, please, you can put all your answers in the chat box, so that once we shoot the right answers, you can identify whether this thing, what your observations is right or wrong. So here, let me give you 1 minute of time. So time started running. So please place your answers. Okay, time is up. So let's just shoot the answers. The first, improper lifting technique of the patients. Next, waste materials on the floor, accumulations water on the floor, and a few peoples are fighting, needle on the floor, and nurse not using the gloves, power cables on the floor, fire exit is blocked. Yes, likewise, let us go to next activity in the same way. So for here also, you'll be having a 1 minute of time. Yes, time starts now. Yes, time is up. We'll go for the answers. First, trip and fall hazard. Again, the power cables on the floor. Next, overloading the trolley. Next, paper on the floor. The box stacked too much height. Next, person carrying too much of weight, which it will obstruct his visibility. And ergonomic hazard. The position of the chair and the system is in wrong directions. And fire again, fire exit is blocked. Yes. So these are some hazards. Not only this, so even you can identify more hazards also. So why we are just projected this only because at least what are the hazards are available in your areas should be noticed as well as should be raised incidents if it is not sorted out. So please in this way try to identify the hazards in your work areas initially as the management does this for the fire facility rounds and other rounds. Also there is a chance that some way another way some hazards may be missed out. At least in this way which can brings more and more hazards can be the initially if there is near miss has to be considered as an incident so that we will never to have any kind of any incidents fire incidents. So try to increase more to report more kind of near miss incidents. So finally we came to the end of the sessions. So any questions? Yeah.
So thank you so much, Mr. Anthony, for the detailed presentation on fire prevention methods and also evacuation plan. So just to acknowledge, basically the audience is very active in your quiz and also in the participation related to identification of the fire hazards. So we had Mr. Armol, Shweta, Dr. Chitra Devi, and Jaren who have been actively participating and they have given the maximum answers right. So many congratulations to the audience on that. And thank you once again, Mr. Anthony, for the detailed insight as takeaways which we carry from this meaningful and valuable video and presentation on the 3 categories of fire safety requirements in hospitals and factors to be considered for fire prevention, life safety and fire protection, challenges faced in prevention of fire safety, basic roles and responsibilities of staff for fire prevention, and types of evacuations and manual lifting techniques. So with this, we come to the end of the session, and now we have a couple of minutes left for the questions. So if anybody has some questions, you can please put it in the chat box. So we get one question from one of the audience which says that is it necessary to involve and teach our patients and visitors about fire safety? So, Mr. Sunil, would you want to answer this question?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, all stakeholders of the organization is better to be informed about what are the steps 1, 2, 3 to be done in case of a fire and what should be avoided. So yes, the displaying the fire layouts, informing them about which are your nearest exit, what you have to do in case if you see a fire or smoke. Yes, it definitely helps in making them part of our efforts to prevent any of these things at the initial point. What we should understand is that a fire doesn't give too much of time. Even though when we think about okay, I can react, respond, I have a crash team, I will be able to mobilize people, you raise the code. If you look at most of the fire incidents, from the time it is observed, the time to make it become uncontrollable, it is hardly 3 minutes to 5 minutes. So it is very, very important that every stakeholders is aware about the basic things. We don't have to make them very, very alarmed that, okay, this organization is too much giving importance on the fire. But yes, it's always better to be informed about the importance of the safe practices.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And there's another question which by Dr. Bharat, who says that thank you to both the speakers, and he would want to know if the fire safety measures is one-time investment in the hospital budget, or you suggest for every year allocation of resources What advice do you give to rest the conflict of mind amidst burden and restraint for money resources? So,
Yes, it's definitely a question. Every budget time, this will come for discussion because every organization will look at what is the best EBITDA coming out of the balance sheet. So most of the time, the maintenance and these are things which will be kept aside. But nowadays, most of the management is very specific about they have to spend money on this one. It is not one-time investment. It regularly need updates. It regularly need modification. It regularly need installations and maintenance of it, training. Now there are a lot of virtual trainings systems are coming up, which will give the feel of these fire and evacuations and other things. So extended reality, virtual reality. So fire, the prevention and protection, safety need a regular funding. Every budget need to have the allocation for that.
okay. So there's another question. Is there any checklist reference for ergonomics? Vijay, would you want to answer this question, Anthony?
Especially in occupational health and safety, there are some checklists, ma'am. So they can able to go through that.
Okay. The last question which I would take is, what are the recent and future trends in the prevention and firefighting apart from training from PGIMR?
Can you repeat the question, ma'am?
What are the recent and future trends in the fire prevention and fighting apart from training? So apart from training, what are the future trends in the fire prevention techniques that we're using?
Awareness. And also the responsibilities, what they're going to take as an individual responsibility. Job card in what we have done, especially for the fire marshals and those, we are given the job card. So yeah, like how we having each and every person has job card, same that we are given separate job card, what is their roles and responsibility, even during the fire as well as in the proactive on the daily basis. So likewise, we can, instead of fighting the fire, we can prevent the fire.
Yeah, to add that, to add what Vijay has told, probably the new technology will give us better the equipments and better screening mechanisms. Today, we depend upon the smoke detectors and some thermal sensors, which will give us an ambient temperature differences. We may get more the sensors which will be part of the building system itself, so that we will be able to know that much earlier than what we see the fire itself. And a lot of artificial intelligence systems may come into picture to identify the most critical areas, peak times, when these areas become more risky, and patterns can be identified. It can suggest and predict the risk of the fires. So probably these materials and equipments may be available in the future to have these buildings more safer.
Super. Thank you so much, sir. So because of the paucity of time, we may not be able to take up further questions, but we would try to reach out to the audience for answering the queries through our evident speakers. So thank you so much, Mr. Sunil and Mr. Anthony, for your precious time and sharing with us your knowledge on the fire safety program with the entire audience today. It was very informative and also very valuable for us to have you here today. Thank everyone who have taken the time out to attend the webinar today. And I think we have got around more than 300 participants who are attending the session through Zoom and also through YouTube live streaming. So before we wind up with the program, let me also inform you about the interesting webinar that is going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow, we have a very interesting session on information security management system. And for this webinar series, we have two very eminent speakers, Mr. Ashokan Somuvirappan, Vice President of IT and Business Transformation from Apollo Hospitals Group, and Mr. Kumar KV, who is the Group Head of IT for Narayana Health. So the session shall be moderated by Mr. Satish, who is the Regional Quality Head for North Region from Apollo Hospitals. So requesting all the participants to please register for tomorrow's webinar using the same link. And I also want to make up the announcement which we have been doing for a couple of months now. Again, I want to reiterate on this. that we are very delighted to announce that two of our conferences, the 9th edition of the International Patient Safety Conference and the 10th conference of the Transforming Health with IT at Taj Palace on New Delhi on 13th and 14th of February 2023. If you have not registered already, request to please register for the conference as very limited seats are available now. The key highlights for the events would be that there would be more than 200 speakers and 1,500 above delegates from 30 different countries. There would be more than 50 very interesting breakout sessions. We are also organizing 5 interesting and very exciting pre-conference web workshops on 11th of February at Indraprastha Apollo Hospital, Delhi, on the topics which are as follows: facility management and safety, clinical audit and clinical pathway, effective hospital operations and service excellence, risk management in hospitals, and medication safety program. And there would be several sessions which will be driven by industry experts. There would be patient safety awards, papers, poster presentations, and many other exciting activities are going to happen in the conference. So hence request of all the eminent delegates and audiences who have not registered yet to please register for the conference and please visit the website which is mentioned in the slide also, which is www.patientsafety.co.in, where you can get our email ID as well as the phone number. The slide also has the same. You can also download our app of International Health Dialogue, which is available in Android and iOS as well, for additional details and register for the exciting 2 days event. So with this, we come to the end of our today's session for our webinar. Thank you so much for joining, and we shall see you tomorrow. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Vijay.
you for all the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.